Hello, so this is my first devlog for my project. I thought I'd run through everything I've made. Obviously I've already got the video kind of showing all of that, but I thought I'd talk through it, how I've done it, that kind of stuff, just to give a good idea of what I've actually got. So, when you load the game, I've now got movement set up with a camera that actually you can move, because before I had it, because I didn't use the movement I was going to use before with the one I made for my previous game. The reason for that was it was top down and it would move based on the world rather than what the player was looking at, which I didn't feel worked for a 3D platform very well. So it now actually follows the camera, whatever the camera's looking at is forward. So, I'm pretty happy with that. It works much better. Um, there are games where you can do that, like Kirby's Forgotten Land and stuff, where it is a top-down platformer, but I'm going for more like a Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, that kind of thing, so it doesn't really work for what I want. But this works much better. As for what the cubes are all spawning around me, the reason for that is I'm trying to animate it, get that set up ready, so I can put the game objects I've made for the character, which will swap out when things happen. So like right now it's idle, but if I move, it starts running. So that's what those cubes are spawning around me. If I jump, that's the jump cube. There is a bit of a bug where when you jump, it also counts as movement. So I'm going to try and look at that. I did try adding this grounded, which I'll show you in the code later, but it's getting there. This is an early version. You can also shoot, which also apparently triggers stuff, which I did not know before, so I'll have to look at that as well. And you can punch. That's pretty much all the character stuff. Like I say, unfortunately I wasn't able to repurpose movement like I wanted. It just took a lot longer than I wanted it to, but it works better than it did before, so I'm happy enough with it. That said, health is pretty much the exact same then. And you can see here, if I run into this, I take damage. And I've also created a health pickup, which I get there. So let's just kill this enemy as well, because currently the enemies don't do anything, but, next update I'll remove them. It was planned for this sprint, but just didn't have time to set it up. You can kill the enemies. They do have a chance to drop. In fact, you can see in the. Oh, you can't because it's cropped. But it generates a random number. I'll show you in the console when you kill an enemy. So the reason for that is, so that's everything in the game. I'll start showing you code. Where is enemy? I'll just find it here. There you go, health component. Yeah, I need to actually put my scripts in the right order. Not really done that yet. But it generates a random number because if it's below 20, it will spawn a health pickup. As for the health pickups, the way they work, you can kind of see here. If it tags with a player, it will then check if its health is full, and then it will heal him. You also have player health, which checks it's 60. When it's 0, I'll respawn it. Currently don't have checkpoints, but I can add them in next update is the plan. As you can see, I've already kind of started factoring that in. Then I'll show you the player movement, how that works. It's a very big script. The only thing that's not ran through it is jump. Like melee and all that stuff is here. So, it checks the rigid body, moves it, max speed, movement force, all that stuff's here. You've got all the public game objects, which will be the frames of animation it swaps to, because like I said, the way it works is it's going to swap the models. It's kind of like a sprite in a sense, but just in 3D. You then got the object for the projectile, a reload time float for shooting, so you can't just spam it. Projectile speed set here. It checks the direction of fire. I've added the ground distance. The reason for that was, even though jump's not in this script, I wanted to check for the jump to see if you've grounded or not, to see if the animations play. Just like that's there for logic reasons, basically. Against the rigid body, all this sort of stuff. Sets collider is full, so you don't immediately start punching. All that kind of stuff. Just keep running through. Void on enable and disable, I've got set up. Fixed update for the camera, where you're looking, so you move in that direction. Yep, all that stuff's there for that. All that checks if you're grounded. Here we go. This is where the logic is for animation, which, like I say, you can clearly see is not 100% accurate yet. We really need to look at this. I'm not sure how to do the logic. Up until today, the idle didn't work, but now it seems to be working. But the issue is still that it runs through this before it stops. It doesn't just stop at, say, you stop while it's at run 2. It doesn't just stop there. It plays run 3 and then goes to idle, which it's not supposed to do. So it's very much logic based, but I've got the core of it set up. It's just going to need some work. You can see with jumping as well, it shouldn't be animating movement, but because I'm guessing magnitude goes up, it includes that on the y-axis, which I need to specify if it's on the y-axis, do not do this, but again, not 100% sure on how to do that yet. Melee, I've got set up here, so when you start attack, it'll do the call routine, which for melee attack, which turns off all the game objects. Since the melee collider is active and the melee punch is true, I know it. Oh yeah, it just waits for a certain amount of time, sets the collider to false, and then sets melee punch as false. In fact, no, I don't have the melee punch set up yet. It says false, it should be set true. Okay, that's sorted out now. I missed that. Then you've got input action, do range. Okay, so yeah, this is where it actually shoots and things. It's all set up, gets the projectile, spawns on the spawn point, starts the core routine for reload, starts the core routine for shooting animation. Could probably do that more efficiently. I think pretty much all my animations I know there's more efficient ways to do it, but I don't know how to do those efficient ways, so I haven't. I do hope to look at that in the future, but for now it works. It's functional. It's not efficient, but it's functional. Projectile, it's pretty basic. It's just if it hits another collider, and it's got a health component, so if it hits an enemy, it'll do 20 damage. Wall. The current just destroys when it hits a wall, but I am planning on adding some breakable walls, so I'll probably update that. Same with torches, because it's going to hit those and light them. Because there's going to be a few puzzles, well, small, very basic puzzles which use that. Otherwise, it just destroys it in like 1 second. So, the player jump, just kind of just basic jump script. Checks if it's grounded. If it's not, you can jump, and if you can double jump. Just to hurt the player, because there's different health for the player and the enemy. Again, you could probably just use the same health, but it just helped my brain figure out if I didn't. And I'll show you the old movement script. This isn't what I'm using anymore, but I can kind of show it you. There we go. Yes, this was what I was using before, which I can't use now. This is my original game where it's like a brawler, so it was a top-down camera and it would move in terms of world space. Doesn't really work for this game, like I say, with it being a platformer. You could do it, but it's not what I wanted, so while I planned to use this, I did have to cut it. And you can see this is my original version of the move update and animation stuff, which did not work at all. But you can see I've already improved on that a lot in between, where it now has a lot of the logic for it set up. So yeah, that's kind of my devlog. Yeah, I guess the only other thing I could show you is just how it all looks on the game objects. So I started using Cinemachine for the first time, so I set all of that up here. I used the input provider they give you, and that seems to have worked quite well. It made it a lot easier. It did take me about an hour to actually research to figure out how to use it, but it works. I'm pretty happy with how it feels to use. On the enemy, on the player itself, this is how everything looks. So there is quite a lot of elements to the player movement script with all the different animations. It's kind of messy, but again, it works, and I'm happy enough with it. The functionality's there, because I can show you the animations are stored on the actual character itself in an animation tab. So you drop that down, and then there they all are. The main camera obviously is there, movement force. I've tried to make it so you can adjust it here, so if there's just small adjustments or tweaks I need to do, it's easier than having to go into the code and do all that. Player health is here, and the jump. That's pretty much all. Yeah, that's everything attached to the player. There will be some other things I add, like I will be adding a pause function to the game, and there will be a power up to like a light kind of thing, and it'll show you where a path is. It's kind of like Mario Galaxy 2 that's based on. But again, I haven't got around to adding that yet. But yeah, canvas obviously for the health bar, because that follows you in the world, so I didn't mention that. That's kind of how I'll probably keep the UI, because I think it's important to show the player their health while they're playing in this sort of game. I could have it in the corner, but I know I kind of like it above the character. But I might shrink it down or something to make it look a bit nicer. I don't know. Then you've got the enemy. They've got a fire point on them, which is where they drop the the health pickup. And then there's all the health component stuff, which is pretty similar to the player. It's just the only difference is got a health pickup and fire point. The health pickup itself doesn't have anything on it. And yeah, that's where I'm at, I'm pretty happy with it so far. It's definitely got a good core of a platformer setup. So I didn't quite manage to finish the sprint, adding in the movement for the enemies and platforms, but this should be pretty quick additions. I think doing the player is what was going to take the most time, and now that's done. The only other things I see being super time consuming are making the levels, doing the boss fight, collectibles if I add them, but again, that's kind of my contingencies. I don't necessarily know that I will. I don't know if there's much point for the length my game's going to be, but I'd like to add them to platformer. Platforms have collectibles. And maybe the pickup will take a while, but all the platform stuff should be pretty simple going forward, so yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with where I'm at.